It's been almost 8 years now, and I still don't sleep through the night. Not fully. Sometimes when the wind's just right and the darkness settles heavy outside my window, I swear I hear them again. The voices, the whispers, the sound of something beneath the soil. I never believed in ghosts before this. Never once. I was one of those people who rolled their eyes at paranormal shows and scoffed at friends when they told me about their haunted basements. But that changed during the fall of 2017. A season of brittle leaves, dry air, and a dare I never should have accepted. It started with an old cemetery, the kind that doesn't show up on modern maps anymore. If you drove 20 minutes outside of Wilkes County, North Carolina, past the dead farmlands and forgotten barns, you'd find a dirt road choked by trees. And somewhere down that road, hidden in the woods, was Dunhill Cemetery. Only locals knew about it. The last recorded burial was back in 1912. Most of the gravestones were too worn to read, leaning crookedly like teeth in a rotted mouth. The place was surrounded by rusted iron fencing, twisted in places like something had bent the bars from the inside. My friend Mason was obsessed with urban legends, and Dunhill was one of his favorites. According to local lore, the cemetery was cursed. Something about a grave that was never supposed to be open. The rumor was, in 1893, a man named Elias Rourke had been buried alive, condemned by the town for witchcraft. They said he swore revenge on the whole town and cursed the land as they lowered him into the ground. It sounded like small-town nonsense. Still, when Mason dared me to spend one night there alone, I accepted. "I'll even pay you $200, he said, grinning like an idiot. "But you've got to stay from sundown to sunrise. No flashlight, no phone, no leaving the grounds." It felt childish, but part of me liked the challenge. I was 25, between jobs, and too proud to say no. At sunset, he dropped me off just outside the iron gate. The wind was sharp, and the sun bled orange behind the trees. I had only a sleeping bag, a cheap lighter, and an old lantern Mason gave me for light. As he drove away, I felt a strange pressure in my chest, like the air itself was heavier inside those cemetery gates. Dunhill was even more unsettling up close. The air smelled like old soil and copper. Most of the gravestones were just weathered slabs, names long faded. One had a child's porcelain doll resting on top, its glass eye cracked, its mouth half open. Another grave was completely sunken, like the earth had swallowed it from beneath. I set up my sleeping bag near a large moss-covered oak at the center of the grounds. That's where the Rourke grave was supposed to be, at least according to Mason. But there were no names on that stone, just a single deep scratch across the front, like someone had tried to carve it out. As the sky went dark, the woods grew unnaturally silent. No crickets, no owls, just the sound of the wind sighing through the trees. Around midnight, I heard the first sound. It was faint, a scratching, like nails brushing against wood or stone. I thought it was a raccoon or maybe a squirrel, but then I heard it again, longer this time and closer. I turned up the lantern and swept the area around me. Nothing. Then I heard a voice. It was so soft, I thought it was the wind at first, but the longer I listened, the clearer it became. "Let me out." I froze. The whisper had come from the ground, beneath the soil. I stared at the grave in front of me, the one with the scratch across the stone. My breath turned to fog in the cold air, and I felt every hair on my arm stand up. I crouched down, pressing my ear to the cold earth. For a moment, there was only silence, then a scraping, closer, and then the whisper again, this time louder. "Let me out!" I stumbled back so fast I nearly knocked over the lantern. My heart was pounding. I wanted to believe it was just a trick of the wind, my imagination, sleep deprivation. But then the ground moved, right there beneath the grave. The soil shifted, just slightly, like something was pushing upward. I backed away, hands shaking, stumbling over gravestones. The whisper came again, from every direction. Dozens of voices, some crying, some laughing, some gasping for breath. I ran to the gate, tried to open it, but the old iron latch had rusted shut. I pulled until my hands bled. Then I heard it, footsteps, behind me. I turned around slowly. There was a man standing by the Rourke grave, tall, thin, wearing tattered 19th century clothes. His face was pale, and his mouth was sewn shut with thick, black thread. Blood had dried in streaks across his chin. But he wasn't looking at me. He was staring at the stone, at his own grave. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Then he turned to me. He didn't speak. He couldn't. But I heard the voice in my head, clear as a scream. "You shouldn't be here." I dropped the lantern. The glass shattered and the flame went out. Darkness swallowed everything. I ran blindly, tripping over roots and stones, smashing into trees. I didn't care if I got hurt, I just wanted out. I followed the fence line until I found a gap where the bars were bent wide enough to squeeze through. I didn't stop running until I was back on the road, gasping and covered in mud. Mason didn't believe me at first, no one did. But I went back the next day, in daylight, with 3 friends. The Rourke grave was gone. I'm not exaggerating. The stone, the soil, the tree, all of it was just gone, like it had never been there. We looked all over the cemetery, but it was as if that part had been erased. I showed them where I'd set up my sleeping bag. Even the grass had returned, no sign of disturbance. And I know what you're thinking. Maybe I hallucinated it. Maybe I dreamed it. But here's the thing. That night, I scratched my name into one of the nearby gravestones with my house key, just to prove to myself later that I'd been there. When we returned, the gravestone had my name on it. Full name, date of birth, and a death date. October 13th, 2017, the night I stayed there. I haven't been back since. I moved across the country, changed my number, got therapy, tried everything to forget. But every now and then, I still hear the whispers, and I swear. When I dream, I'm standing in that grave, looking up at the soil, waiting for someone to let me out.